The greatest struggle you will ever face is not out there in the world, but in the silent battlefield within yourself. Every day your emotions rise up like waves, unpredictable and powerful, threatening to drag you wherever they please. Anger pushes you into actions you later regret. Fear holds you back from opportunities that could change your life. Doubt whispers in your mind, convincing you that you are not enough. Desire blinds you to reason, making you chase short-term pleasure at the cost of long-term success. This inner battle is relentless, and most people lose it because they do not even recognize that it is happening. They live as slaves to emotions, tossed around like leaves in a storm, believing that they have no control. But you are not here to live as a slave. You are here to build a mind strong enough to take command, a mind that stands tall even when emotions rise like fire within you. The truth is simple but uncomfortable. Emotions are not the enemy, but without control, they can become your greatest obstacle. They are raw energy, powerful and untamed. Left unchecked, they dominate your decisions and shape your destiny in ways you never intended. Every failure, every missed opportunity, every broken dream has one common thread. It began when emotions ruled over reason. Think about it. How many people have destroyed their future in a single moment of anger? How many have let fear keep them in the shadows, never daring to step into the light? How many have given in to discouragement when success was just a little further ahead? Emotions are the storm, but the mind can be the captain. The question is not whether you will feel them, because you always will. The question is whether you will let them command your life or train your mind to remain unshaken while the storm rages. Strength of the mind is not measured when everything is calm. It is measured when you stand firm in the middle of chaos. It is easy to feel strong when there is nothing testing you, but the true test comes when your emotions rise like a flood, trying to sweep away your discipline, your clarity, your willpower. In that moment, the weak surrender. They say, "I couldn't help it. I was too angry, I was too scared, I was too tempted." But those who are truly strong understand that emotions may roar, yet the final decision always belongs to the mind. They do not deny their feelings, but they refuse to be ruled by them. Every day, you are faced with choices that define whether your mind grows stronger or weaker. Every time you choose patience over anger, courage over fear, discipline over impulse, your mind gains power. Every time you allow emotions to take control, your mind loses ground. This is the battlefield within you, and it never rests. You cannot win at once and be done. You must train daily, sharpening your awareness, strengthening your discipline, building your resilience. Just as a muscle grows stronger with resistance, your mind grows stronger every time you resist the pull of uncontrolled emotion. To understand this truth is to see life differently. No longer do you view emotions as absolute masters. No longer do you believe that being just human means being powerless against feelings. Instead, you realize that emotions are only forces, and forces can be directed. The fire of anger can burn you alive, or it can forge your determination. The weight of fear can crush your spirit, or it can sharpen your alertness. The sadness of loss can paralyze you, or it can deepen your wisdom. Every emotion can either destroy you or serve you, depending on whether your mind has the strength to take command. And this strength, this unshakable power, begins with the decision to no longer be ruled by impulses, but to rule them. This is the beginning of training your mind to be stronger than your emotions. It starts with awareness of the battle, acknowledgement of the storm, and the unyielding commitment to rise above it. The path is not easy, but every step you take builds a foundation of strength that no force, no failure, no moment of weakness can ever tear down. This is how the war within is won. Emotions are loud, they rush in suddenly, shouting for immediate action, demanding to be obeyed. They push you toward anger when you feel wronged, toward fear when you sense danger, toward comfort when discipline is needed most. Yet no matter how strong they seem, they can only suggest, they cannot decide. The final authority always rests in the mind. Between the spark of an emotion and the action you take lies a space, and inside that space is the most powerful weapon you possess: choice. It is in that space where freedom lies. The problem is, most people never see it. They believe emotions and actions are one and the same. They feel anger, so they lash out. They feel fear, so they retreat. They feel tempted, so they give in. They forget that in every single moment, they still have the ability to choose differently. Choice is the separator between the strong and the weak. Weakness is living as though emotions are in full control, believing you have no say in the matter. Strength is understanding that emotions are only urges, and you decide whether to give them life. When anger strikes, you have the choice to hold your words and protect your future. When fear appears, you have the choice to stand firm and move forward despite the trembling inside you. When discouragement whispers, you have the choice to keep moving even when everything feels heavy. Every choice either strengthens the mind or weakens it, and every choice compounds over time. What begins as a single decision in a single moment eventually becomes a pattern, a habit, a destiny. This is why choice is so powerful. It is the training ground for strength. Each time you choose reason over reaction, your mind grows sharper, more disciplined, more capable. The man who pauses before speaking, the woman who pushes forward despite fear, the individual who chooses patience in the face of frustration. They are not superhuman, they are simply exercising the power of choice again and again until it becomes natural. This is the path to mastery. No one is born unshaken. No one is born disciplined, but every person has the same ability to choose differently in the moment when emotions rise. That is the opportunity given to all. You must recognize that choice is not something small. It is everything. The person who says, "I had no choice," has surrendered their greatest strength. You always have a choice. You may not control what you feel, but you always control how you respond. And that response is what shapes the direction of your life. Every great achievement, every strong mind, every unshakable character was built through 1,000 invisible choices, each one deciding not to bow to emotion, but to rise above it. If you truly desire a mind stronger than your emotions, then you must start by claiming your choices. In every moment, ask yourself, will I surrender to this feeling or will I command it? That single decision made again and again is what creates unbreakable power. Most people live their entire lives without realizing how much of their destiny has been stolen by unchecked emotions. They wake up, and before the day even begins, their mind is already enslaved. A negative thought triggers irritation, irritation triggers anger, and anger shapes the decisions that follow. Fear creeps in when they consider stepping outside of their comfort zone, and instead of moving forward, they retreat back into safety. Desire blinds them, making them chase quick satisfaction while neglecting long-term success. Doubt rises in moments of opportunity, and they allow hesitation to close the door that could have changed everything. Without control, emotions take the driver's seat, while the mind is reduced to a powerless passenger. This is why so many people live in cycles of frustration. They are not failing because the world is against them, but because they are ruled from within. Unchecked emotions are like invisible chains. You cannot see them, but you feel them in every hesitation, every regret, every mischance. Anger blinds you to reason, making you say things and do things that destroy relationships, opportunities, and peace of mind. Fear magnifies risk until even small steps feel like cliffs too high to climb. Desire paints illusions, convincing you that comfort today is more valuable than achievement tomorrow. Doubt whispers quietly, not with force but with persistence, until you start believing that you are incapable. These emotions are powerful, but their greatest power comes not from their strength, but from people's blindness to them. Because when you do not realize you are in a battle, you have already lost. The truth is, emotions dominate most lives because people never take the time to train their minds. They grow up believing that feelings are facts, that impulses are irresistible, that being human means being powerless against what they feel. They say, "That's just the way I am," not realizing that this sentence is nothing more than a chain locking them in weakness. They accept fear as a reason to stop. They accept anger as a justification to hurt. They accept doubt as a truth about their potential. And because of this acceptance, they continue to live below what they are capable of. They hand their destiny over to the rise and fall of temporary feelings, and then wonder why success, peace, and strength remain out of reach. But here is the deeper truth. Emotions dominate only when the mind is untrained. Just like an untrained muscle cannot lift weight, an untrained mind cannot resist emotional pull. The weight feels too heavy, so people give in. Yet the same way a weak muscle can be strengthened through resistance, the mind can be trained to stand firm against emotion. The problem is not that emotions exist. The problem is that people refuse to confront them. They let the storm decide their path, forgetting that the storm always passes, but the consequences of surrender remain. If you wish to live with strength, you must see the chains for what they are and decide never again to let emotions hold command. The moment you recognize that most people are ruled from within is the moment you gain the power to separate yourself from the crowd. Emotions were never meant to be your master. They were designed to be your servants, powerful helpers that provide energy, intensity, and passion to life. When the mind is in command, emotions become fuel for achievement. They give strength to action, fire to ambition, and color to experience. But when emotions rise above their place, and the mind bows before them, they transform from servants into tyrants. They no longer push you forward, they pull you apart. They no longer build, they destroy. This is why so many people live unstable lives, because they have reversed the order. They allow emotions to command and the mind to obey. Yet the truth is clear. The mind must always sit on the throne, while emotions bow before it. Think about the nature of emotions. They are temporary, fleeting, always changing like shifting winds. You can be filled with joy in the morning and despair by the evening. You can feel courageous one moment and terrified the next. If your entire life is driven by these unstable waves, how can you ever build anything solid? You cannot build discipline, success, or strength on shifting ground. But when the mind takes charge, it provides the foundation that emotions cannot. The mind says this is the direction, and emotions, no matter how strong, must follow. It is not about denying that you feel fear, anger, or desire. It is about refusing to let those feelings dictate your actions. The mind listens, acknowledges, and then commands. That is mastery. The difference between weakness and greatness lies in this order. The weak let emotions control their choices. The strong use their mind to direct emotions toward purpose. Anger, when controlled, becomes energy for determination. Fear, when mastered, sharpens awareness and fuels preparation. Desire, when guided, becomes ambition that pushes you to achieve more than comfort ever could. Every emotion, when placed under the authority of the mind, transforms from a threat into a tool. The same fire that destroys can also forge steel, and emotions are no different. When the mind is master, the fire burns for you, not against you. But mastery does not happen by chance. It requires conscious training, the same way an army trains soldiers to obey orders without hesitation. The mind must be trained to give commands, and the emotions must be trained to obey. The moment you allow emotions to take over, you reinforce their power. The moment you take command, even if it feels difficult, you weaken their hold and strengthen your control. Over time, this training becomes second nature. You no longer feel like a victim of emotions. Instead, you feel like the commander of forces that once held you captive. And this is the essence of strength, not the absence of emotion, but the authority to direct it. When you finally place emotions back into their rightful role as servants, life becomes clear. You no longer fear the rise of anger because you know how to use its energy. You no longer avoid fear because you see how it can sharpen your courage. You no longer despise desire because you know how to channel it into goals that matter. You become stable, balanced, and powerful. The storms still come, but instead of being swept away, you harness their force to move forward. The mind sits firmly on the throne, and emotions, no matter how wild, serve the higher vision. This is the order of mastery, and only in this order can true power be found. The first step in training the mind to be stronger than emotions is awareness. You cannot control what you do not see, and most people live unaware of the forces that control them from within. They think their reactions are automatic, that their words and actions are simply the product of their personality, when in truth they are the product of unexamined emotions. Awareness is the moment you step back and observe the storm instead of being swept away by it. It is the moment you catch yourself about to react in anger, the moment you notice fear rising before a decision, the moment you see doubt whispering in the back of your mind. That moment of observation is the beginning of power, because what you can see, you can control. Without awareness, you live in chains and never even realize it. You say things you later regret, and you excuse yourself by saying, "I couldn't help it." You avoid opportunities because fear convinces you it is safer to stay still, and you tell yourself, "It just wasn't the right time." You give in to distractions, impulses, and weaknesses, and you justify them as being natural, human, unavoidable. But the truth is, they were avoidable. The truth is, you could have chosen differently if only you had seen what was happening in that very moment. Awareness lifts the fog. It allows you to see emotions not as commands, but as visitors. They come, they rise, they demand attention, but they are not you, and they do not own you. Training begins the moment you create distance between yourself and your emotions. Instead of saying, "I am angry," you begin to say, "I notice anger rising." Instead of saying, "I am afraid," you begin to say, "I feel fear in this moment." That small shift is powerful. It places you in the position of the observer rather than the prisoner. It reminds you that emotions are temporary states, not permanent identities. Anger may come, but it does not define you. Fear may rise, but it does not control you. Doubt may whisper, but it does not decide for you. With awareness, you begin to separate yourself from the storm, and in that separation lies the strength to choose. But awareness must be practiced. It does not appear overnight, and it does not stay without discipline. Just as a warrior trains daily to sharpen his skills, the mind must be trained to watch itself. Each time you pause before reacting, each time you breathe before speaking, each time you recognize the emotion before it takes over, you strengthen awareness. Over time, what once felt impossible becomes natural. You begin to notice emotions as they rise instead of after they have already taken control. And when you notice them, you take back the power to decide. This is where training begins, not in denial, not in suppression, but in awareness. Because once you see the storm clearly, you can stand in it without being destroyed. Awareness is the beginning, but awareness alone is not enough. You can see your emotions rise, you can notice their pull, but without discipline you will still surrender to them. Discipline is the weapon that cuts through the chaos of emotions. It is the force that allows you to say no when everything inside you screams yes. It is the shield that keeps you steady when the storm is at its strongest. Discipline is not about denying your humanity, it is about directing it. It is about proving to yourself again and again that you are not a slave to feelings, but a master of action. Without discipline, awareness is only observation. With discipline, awareness becomes power. Discipline is forged in the small decisions of everyday life. It is not built in a single act of strength, but in repeated acts of control. When you rise early, even though your body craves more sleep, you are sharpening your weapon. When you choose to work when you feel like resting, you are strengthening your grip on the handle. When you hold back words of anger and speak with clarity instead, you are cutting through the noise of emotion. Every disciplined act, no matter how small, is training. And just like a blade grows sharper with each strike against the stone, your mind grows sharper with each disciplined choice. This is why discipline is not a punishment. It is the greatest form of freedom. It frees you from the chains of impulse and places your destiny back into your hands. Most people confuse discipline with suffering, but in truth, the absence of discipline is where suffering lies. The undisciplined are dragged by their emotions, tossed from fear to anger to doubt without stability. They live at the mercy of whatever they feel in the moment, and their lives reflect it. Unfinished goals, broken habits, unstable emotions. Discipline is the cure to this chaos. It gives order to the disorder inside. It brings consistency where emotions bring inconsistency. It builds foundations where emotions build only shifting sand. A disciplined mind does not deny emotions, but commands them. It decides the course, and emotions, no matter how strong, must fall in line. To wield discipline as your weapon, you must practice it daily. There is no shortcut, no instant mastery. Each act of discipline strengthens your mind for the next battle. Each refusal to surrender makes you stronger for tomorrow's test. Over time, what once felt impossible becomes natural. The choice to stay steady becomes easier. The grip on emotions becomes firmer, and the mind begins to rule with authority. This is when discipline becomes more than an act. It becomes who you are. And when discipline defines you, emotions may rise, but they cannot rule. You hold the weapon, and with it, you cut through every storm with clarity, strength, and unshakable control. One of the greatest tests of whether your mind is stronger than your emotions is the ability to delay gratification. Emotions always push you toward what feels good right now. They whisper, take it now, enjoy it now, don't wait. They are impatient, demanding, and short-sighted. But the mind that has been trained understands a deeper truth. Nothing of true value comes instantly. Growth requires patience. Success requires sacrifice. Strength requires waiting. The undisciplined fall victim to the promise of quick pleasure, but the strong know that temporary satisfaction often costs permanent greatness. Every time you resist the pull of instant gratification, you are building power that cannot be broken. Consider how emotions operate when they are left unchecked. Hunger urges you to eat what is convenient, not what is healthy. Laziness convinces you to rest when work is needed most. Desire pushes you to spend when saving would bring freedom tomorrow. Fear tells you to stay comfortable instead of stepping into challenge. These are all calls for immediate gratification. They feel strong in the moment, but they leave you weaker in the long run. They rob you of progress, strip you of resilience, and keep you chained to mediocrity. Yet when you choose to delay gratification, to endure the discomfort of waiting, you are training your mind to rise above emotions. You are saying, I am in control, not my feelings. The ability to delay gratification is one of the clearest signs of mental strength. It separates the ordinary from the extraordinary. The ordinary person looks for quick results, instant approval, and fast rewards. The extraordinary person is willing to wait, to labor without recognition, to sacrifice today for a tomorrow others cannot see. This ability does not come from emotion. It comes from reason, vision, and discipline. It comes from valuing the future more than the present. Each time you choose to wait, each time you say no to the easy option, you harden your resolve. You teach your emotions that they are not in command. And the more you do this, the more unshakable your mind becomes. Waiting is not weakness. Waiting is strength. Anyone can give in to the moment. Only the strong can see beyond it. The fire of desire may burn hot right now, but the disciplined mind knows that the fire will pass, and what remains after it fades is what truly matters. By delaying gratification, you learn patience, and patience is the soil where greatness grows. You cannot rush transformation. You cannot demand instant reward. You cannot build strength in a single moment. But you can choose moment after moment to resist the pull of the now for the promise of the greater later. This choice builds the kind of power that emotions cannot touch. It builds a mind so strong that no temptation, no impulse, no storm of feelings can break its command. Emotions are not enemies, they are raw energy. The problem is not that they exist, but that most people let this energy explode in destructive directions. Anger is left uncontrolled and becomes violence. Fear is left unchallenged and becomes paralysis. Sadness is left unprocessed and becomes despair. Desire is left unchecked and becomes addiction. Yet the truth is, every emotion that rises within you carries immense energy, and energy can always be redirected. When the mind is in command, emotions that once weakened you can be transformed into forces that drive you forward. This is the art of reframing, turning what seems like a weakness into fuel for strength. Anger, for example, is often seen as something purely negative. Left unmanaged, it destroys relationships, decisions, and futures. But anger is also passion, intensity, and energy. When you direct it through the mind, it becomes drive. Instead of exploding outward, it burns inward, giving you fire to work harder, train longer, and pursue with unshakable focus. Fear, too, is not just a chain. Fear sharpens awareness. It makes you alert, attentive, and cautious in the right ways. When the mind reframes fear, it transforms from paralysis into preparation. Instead of stopping you, it equips you. Sadness, when reframed, becomes reflection. It allows you to pause, to understand, to grow deeper in wisdom. Even doubt, when reframed, can become a challenge that pushes you to prepare more, learn more, and build confidence through action. The emotion itself is not the problem, it is the direction you give it. This is where the strength of the mind is tested. Most people let emotions use them, but the strong use emotions. They understand that feelings are energy waiting for direction. The mind says, I will not let this emotion destroy me, I will harness it. It is like taking a raging river and building a dam that channels the water into power. The river does not stop flowing, but now it serves a purpose. The energy of the emotion does not disappear, but now it builds instead of destroys. This is mastery, not the absence of emotion, but the redirection of its force. To live with strength is not to suppress what you feel, but to transform it. Suppression only pushes emotions deeper, where they grow stronger and eventually erupt. Transformation, however, uses their energy for progress. The moment you feel anger, you turn it into determination. The moment you feel fear, you turn it into readiness. The moment you feel sadness, you turn it into wisdom. The moment you feel doubt, you turn it into motivation to grow. This practice takes training, but with time it becomes natural. You begin to see every emotion not as an obstacle, but as potential fuel. And when you reach this level, emotions lose their power to rule you. They still rise, but you no longer fear them. You welcome them because you know that whatever comes, you will use it. This is the mind's highest power, to turn every storm into wind that pushes you forward. Focus is the anchor of a strong mind. Without focus, even the most disciplined person becomes scattered, and when the mind is scattered, emotions easily take control. Distraction opens the door for fear, for doubt, for temptation. When your vision is unclear, your emotions will always choose the easiest path in the moment. But when your mind is locked onto a clear purpose, when it knows where it is going, emotions lose their power to sway you. Focus is the guard at the gate. It keeps you steady when emotions rise, reminding you that no matter how strong the wave feels, your destination matters more than the storm. The truth is, emotions thrive in chaos. They gain strength when your attention is divided, when your mind is pulled in 100 directions. A person without focus is like a ship without a compass, tossed around by every gust of wind. Today they are motivated, tomorrow they are discouraged, the next day they are distracted, and the cycle never ends. But when the mind has focus, it creates order. It narrows attention, it reduces noise, it silences the endless chatter of impulses. Focus does not remove emotions, but it limits their influence. When you know exactly what you want, it becomes much harder for fear to stop you, for doubt to distract you, for temptation to pull you away. Focus is not a passive state. It is an act of war against distraction. It requires discipline to return again and again to the vision you have chosen. Each time emotions try to drag you into unnecessary battles, focus pulls you back to what matters. Each time fear tempts you to stop, focus reminds you of why you started. Each time anger urges you to waste energy, focus reminds you that your energy belongs to your purpose. This is why those who master focus appear unshakable. It is not that they never feel emotions, but that they are so centered on their vision that emotions cannot move them from it. Their clarity is their armor. The mind becomes stronger through the act of focusing. Just like a muscle grows through repeated use, focus sharpens each time you bring your attention back to the goal. At first, emotions may pull you away quickly, but each time you return, you strengthen your control. Over time, you begin to notice that emotions no longer scatter you as they once did. You still feel them, but they cannot uproot you. You stand firm because your focus is locked, and in that state, you discover the true power of the mind, the ability to direct all your energy, all your emotion, all your will toward the vision that matters most. Focus transforms chaos into clarity, weakness into strength, and fleeting feelings into lasting power. Resilience is the shield that allows the mind to endure when emotions strike again and again. It is not about avoiding pain, fear, or doubt, but about learning to face them without breaking. A strong mind does not run from emotions. It allows them to appear and then stands firm. Resilience is the ability to remain steady in the middle of storms, to bend but never snap, to absorb the weight of struggle and still rise. Without resilience, the mind becomes fragile, easily shattered by setbacks, overwhelmed by temporary feelings. With resilience, however, every blow becomes fuel. Every challenge becomes training, and every wave of emotion becomes an opportunity to grow stronger. Resilience is not something you are born with, it is something you build. It is forged in moments when quitting feels easier, when emotions scream for escape, but you refuse to give in. Every time you endure difficulty, you train your mind to resist emotional collapse. Every time you choose to push forward instead of surrender, you add another layer of strength. Over time, this builds a mind that no longer reacts blindly to emotion, but observes it with clarity. Resilience gives you the power to say, yes, I feel fear, but I will not stop. Yes, I feel anger, but I will not lose control. Yes, I feel doubt, but I will not believe it. This is not coldness, it is strength. It is the choice to rise above the storm rather than drown in it. Resilience also transforms how you interpret struggle. Instead of seeing setbacks as proof of failure, a resilient mind sees them as lessons. Instead of viewing emotions as enemies, it sees them as signals indicators of where growth is needed. Pain becomes a teacher, not a prison. Fear becomes a compass, pointing toward areas of untapped potential. Doubt becomes a challenge to strengthen belief. This perspective is what separates the fragile from the unbreakable. Those who lack resilience see obstacles as reasons to stop, but those who possess it see obstacles as opportunities to sharpen their will. In this way, resilience turns every emotional test into fuel for growth. The foundation of resilience is self-trust. When you trust yourself, emotions lose their ability to control you, because you know you can endure them. You no longer fear failure because you trust that you will rise again. You no longer fear rejection because you trust your worth is not defined by others. You no longer fear pain because you trust your strength to handle it. Self-trust is built through action by keeping promises to yourself, by showing up when it's hard, by facing discomfort willingly. Each time you prove to yourself that you can endure, you reinforce the belief that no emotion can defeat you. And once you carry this belief deep within, you become unstoppable. Emotions may strike, but you remain standing. They may burn, but you remain unbroken. They may test you, but they cannot destroy you. This is resilience, the mind's ability to rise above emotions and use them rather than be used by them. Consistency is the hidden force that transforms strength into permanence. A single act of discipline can silence emotions for a moment, but only consistency makes the mind unshakable. The power of consistency lies in repetition, in showing up again and again, even when emotions rebel. It is easy to be strong once, to push through fear or resist doubt in a single moment. But what builds a truly strong mind is the decision to repeat that strength every day, to practice it until it becomes second nature. Consistency is what takes fleeting control and turns it into unbreakable mastery. Emotions are strongest when they sense inconsistency. They feed on hesitation, on moments when you allow yourself to drift away from your path. Fear grows when you avoid it. Doubt multiplies when you allow breaks in your commitment. Temptation thrives when you give it room to enter. But when you practice consistency, emotions lose their grip. Each day you stay loyal to your purpose, you weaken their power. Each day you take action despite how you feel. You build proof that emotions cannot dictate your life. Consistency sends a message to the mind that purpose comes before feeling, that discipline outweighs impulse. Over time, this message becomes hardwired into your very identity. The beauty of consistency is that it compounds. Small daily actions may not feel powerful at first, but together they create an unstoppable force. A single push against fear may not silence it forever, but repeated pushes weaken it until it can no longer control you. A single act of self-control may not erase doubt, but repeated acts build unshakable confidence. Consistency turns the ordinary into the extraordinary, the weak into the strong, the fragile into the resilient. What seems impossible in one moment becomes effortless through the power of repeated effort. It is not grand gestures that build a strong mind, but the constant daily refusal to let emotions lead. Consistency also reshapes identity. Every consistent action is a vote for the person you are becoming. Each time you remain steady despite emotions, you reinforce the belief that you are in control. Each time you honor discipline over impulse, you prove to yourself that you are the master of your mind. Over time, these repeated actions transform your self-image. You no longer see yourself as someone who fights against emotions occasionally. You become someone who lives above them daily. This shift is what creates lasting transformation. The mind becomes strong not through a single victory, but through endless victories repeated day after day. This is the power of consistency. It transforms strength from a temporary state into a permanent character. The greatest victory a person can ever achieve is mastery over self. Conquering the world, gaining wealth, or achieving recognition means nothing if the mind remains enslaved to emotions. Mastery over self is the ability to govern your thoughts, to command your actions, and to rise above impulses. It is the state where you no longer live as a servant to fear, doubt, anger, or desire, but as a master who directs them toward a higher purpose. This mastery is not about suppressing emotions or pretending they do not exist. It is about controlling the response. A strong mind acknowledges emotions but refuses to be ruled by them. True power is not the absence of feelings but the ability to guide them. Mastery over self begins with awareness. You cannot control what you do not understand. Every emotion has a trigger, a cause, and a purpose. Fear tries to protect you, anger tries to defend you, doubt tries to caution you. But when these emotions are allowed to rule unchecked, they become destructive. Awareness allows you to see them for what they are, signals, not commands. The person who has mastery over self listens to these signals, but decides consciously how to respond. They do not lash out because of anger, they do not retreat because of fear, they do not surrender because of doubt. They recognize the emotion, learn from it, and then choose the path that serves their vision. This is how awareness becomes control. From awareness comes discipline. Discipline is the practice of choosing long-term strength over short-term comfort. It is the refusal to let temporary feelings decide permanent outcomes. When you have mastery over self, you no longer chase pleasure at the cost of purpose, and you no longer avoid pain at the cost of growth. You decide what must be done and you do it regardless of how you feel. This discipline becomes the foundation of every achievement. It is what allows the strong mind to remain steady when others break, to rise when others surrender, to act when others hesitate. Discipline is not a punishment but a freedom. The freedom to act according to your highest self rather than your weakest impulse. The final stage of mastery over self is integration. This is when your mind and emotions no longer work against each other, but together. Instead of being ruled by emotions, you channel them. Fear becomes energy that drives preparation. Anger becomes fuel that powers determination. Desire becomes motivation that pushes persistence. Even doubt becomes a tool to sharpen clarity. When mastery is complete, emotions are no longer enemies but allies, serving the mind rather than ruling it. This is the highest state of strength, where you are no longer at war with yourself but in harmony, directing all your inner forces toward the life you choose to create. Mastery over self is the ultimate triumph, the victory that makes every other victory possible. The unshakable mind is the ultimate reward of training yourself to be stronger than your emotions. It is the state where fear may whisper, but it cannot stop you. Doubt may appear, but it cannot weaken you. Anger may rise, but it cannot control you. The unshakable mind is not the absence of emotion. It is the presence of an unmovable foundation that no emotion can break. When your mind reaches this level, you become like a mountain. Storms may strike, winds may rage, but you remain standing, rooted in strength and certainty. People who reach this point are not easily swayed by circumstances. They do not live according to moods, they live according to principles. Their strength is not temporary, it is permanent. An unshakable mind is built through every step you have taken. Discipline, focus, resilience, consistency, and mastery over self. Each struggle, each test, each challenge has forged it. Nothing in this world can replace the strength that comes from enduring and overcoming. The unshakable mind is not born in comfort but in difficulty. It is carved by pain, shaped by trials, and strengthened by every emotion that tried to break it. And yet, instead of breaking, you use those emotions to grow. This is why the unshakable mind is rare. Most people surrender to feelings, but the few who rise above them become unbreakable. They gain a power that no external force can take away, the power of inner control. Living with an unshakable mind changes how you experience life. Problems no longer destroy you, they challenge you. Setbacks no longer discourage you, they sharpen you. Criticism no longer wounds you, it guides you. You stop being a victim of the outside world because you have mastered the inside world. While others chase peace in possessions, approval, or circumstances, you carry peace within yourself. This is the highest freedom, to live unaffected by the temporary storms of emotion and circumstance, guided only by your vision and your values. With this freedom, nothing can hold you back. You move with certainty, you act with clarity, and you build a life that reflects strength at its deepest level. The unshakable mind is not just about survival. It is about transformation. When you reach this state, you are no longer controlled by emotions, but you also do not suppress them. You use them as fuel, as energy, as power for your purpose. Fear sharpens your courage. Pain deepens your strength. Desire expands your vision. Doubt strengthens your belief. The unshakable mind knows that emotions are not enemies, they are tools. And when the mind controls the tools, nothing is impossible. This is the mind that creates greatness. This is the mind that builds legacies. This is the mind that cannot be defeated. The unshakable mind is your highest self, and once you choose to train it, you step into a life of strength, freedom, and power that no emotion can ever take away.